New Pro-Am footage of Scottie Barnes has been released, and this guy has a completely new jump shot. So I'm going to break down probably the most exciting offseason footage we've seen this entire summer. Additionally, ESPN came out with their Eastern Conference predictions, Eastern Conference standings, and they put the Toronto Raptors up there as contenders. So I'm going to break down those entire rankings there, as well as a minor Kevin Durant trade update. So a bunch of stuff to dive into. Without further ado, let's dive straight into it. Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, breaking down the latest Toronto Raptors news. And folks, you guys have been killing it, hitting that sub button. I greatly appreciate it. And if we keep up this momentum, we might be able to hit 26k subs soon. So if you're interested in all the latest Raptors news topics, definitely hit that sub button. But folks, let's dive straight into this news because I'm excited. I'm excited with a bit of film that has recently been released, and involves Scottie Barnes hitting some logo threes. Now, there's been a bunch of footage dropped this entire summer, right? The Rico Hines stuff. I've been reacting to pretty well everything that's been dropped. And Scottie Barnes has certainly looked impressive with his newfound size, his ability to pass, and the jumper did look a lot quicker in the Rico Hines runs, but we didn't get to see a huge sample of jumpers or a lot of clear plays where he was isoing and taking jumpers, more just set shots, right? More set stuff, and not a lot of moments, right? He looked confident catching the ball off the catch and letting it fly, and he had a couple of shots off the dribble, but encouraging signs, but nothing too crazy. However, in the most recent bit of film, we are looking at a guy that might have a substantial, right, not just a minor, a substantial improvement in terms of his jump shooting ability. Because let's just play the clips. Let's show the aggregated content and look at Scottie Barnes hitting contested step back middies there off the dribble, no hitch, no nothing, right? Here's him playing a bit of defense. I got all the aggregated footage, Instagram story quality video, but he's out here dunking, and look at this, off the dribble from behind the 3-point line. No hesitation, zero hesitation, pulling up, letting it fly. Obviously, we knew Scottie Barnes can bully folks in the paint there. He's gonna get a block shot on this one. We're seeing a spin dunk, me clicking that play button, that pause button, but get a little replay of that going on in here, right? Look at this clip. Look at that 360 yam, right? The hops are there, the verts here is another angle of it, but this is the logo 3. This is the one I really wanna look at the confidence. You sag off. My feet are still on the logo of this half line, and I'm letting it fly. He's celebrating. He's getting his jumper going, and yes, there's a bunch of, that was sort of an aggregated highlight tape that I put together, stealing clips from this Pro-Am game he had, but the jumper is what has me extremely excited. We knew Scottie Barnes can finish in the lane. We've seen it in the Rico Hines runs. He's using his strength to work his way inside, to play elite defense. He went viral for locking down James Harden, right? We know this from Scottie Barnes, but the jumper, we've seen bits and pieces of encouraging growth for Scottie Barnes, right? The first, it was the in the gym footage, the Ben Simmons-esque, hitting 10 jumpers in a row off the dribble from the 3-point line and stuff. But the mechanics look good, which was a positive, right? For a fan of Scottie Barnes, fan of the Toronto Raptors. But then we saw the Rico Hines footage and we see, okay, he's getting the ball out from behind the 3-point line, not hesitating, ready to let it fly, shooting some stuff off the dribble. Not the greatest of camera angles, but again, the in the gym footage translated into something in-game against NBA level competition that looks solid. So the jumper looked good. But now at this point, in that little highlight clip I showed, Scottie Barnes is taking post fadeaway, Kobe-esque post fadeaway jump shots. He's walking up the court like he's Steph Curry and saying, oh, you're sagging off, well, I'm a couple steps beyond the half line, I'm gonna splash that baby down, right? And yes, we know players like to work on their game in the offseason, like to try out different things, and they're more free. There's less stress. There's less, coaches out there harnessing them in and taking bad shots, even though Nick Nurse seems to give everyone the massive green light. But you got to be another level confident in that jump shooting ability, to be taking those logo S3s, to be taking just fadeaway pull-ups from a step inside the 3-point line, and they look smooth, right? The hitch in the jump shot, something that I always bring up with Scottie Barnes at times, because sometimes throughout the course of last season, he'd be in the mid-range and he'd be hitting 2, 3, 4 shots in a row, and the jumper looked really smooth. But on other possessions, it would be, kind of hitching at the top. We'd see a little weird movement in his elbows. It wouldn't be consistently coming from the same set point every single time. But this entire offseason, the jumper, zero hitch whatsoever in any bit of footage we've seen. And it's looking just smoother and smoother, even smoother than it did when he was hitting his shots during moments through last season. So if Scottie Barnes comes in and increases his three-point shooting to a high 30s from behind the three-point line, and obviously something that most superstars in the NBA have in their bag with an elite mid-range jump shot that they can shoot over people and get to their spots whenever they want, we're going to see an accelerated, right? Everyone thinks Scottie Barnes has star potential, but we might see that star potential become realized more quickly than we expect. So that's very, very encouraging stuff there from our guy, Scottie Barnes. But that's not the only thing we're diving into today. And the next thing we're discussing is ESPN names the Toronto Raptors as contenders. So they came out and essentially gave a list of the Eastern Conference standings. And I'll put that on the screen, the top 5 that they had here currently. And it involves number 1, the Boston Celtics, which I think is earned. They don't have a ridiculously high record prediction, pretty well tied with the Milwaukee Bucks. So 1 and 2 is Milwaukee, and Boston tied. Just below them is the Miami Heat. And then at 4th, the Philadelphia 76ers. Then at 5th, the Toronto Raptors. And they even threw the Atlanta Hawks in there as potential contenders. But you look at those stats, they predict the Eastern Conference is going to be pretty tightly packed. 54 wins for the Bucks and Celtics, 51 for the Heat, 50 for the Sixers, and 47 for us. A little bit less than last season, and we're just edging out the Atlanta Hawks. Now, am I going to come out here and say, I predicted top 3 seed? That's my prediction for coming into next season. I think we'll be able to overtake 2 of the Sixers, Heat, Bucks, and Celtics. I think we'll be able to overtake at least 2 of those teams. But the Raptors, even though it's a win-less prediction, I think this is a fair take. I think ESPN, they're not going too crazy. There's no Paul Pierce golden kazoos being handed out to these employees of ESPN making these lists, because I think this is a fair space for the Toronto Raptors to be in. Now, do I think we'll be better than the Sixers? Probably the Heat. Yes, just given our internal development, given those rosters, especially with James Harden, Kyle Lowry, Jimmy Butler, a little bit older players. So I think the Raptors could take a step forward over those guys that probably aren't looking to improve this season. But maybe if James Harden comes back healthy, you could call that an improvement. But I don't want to dive into my specific predictions just yet. People know I want a top 3 seed. But the interesting take that I've seen, because this came from a Reddit post from the Atlanta Hawks, and Atlanta Hawks fans are pretty cheesed that the Toronto Raptors are put above their Trae Young, their new look Atlanta Hawks with DeJounte Murray, who's out here looking like a clown in these Pro-Am games. I'm here for it. I love him, just bopping people on the head when they're on the ground and stuff. He tried to get into a fight with Paolo Banchero, or got into a chirping match. There's another fight with Brandon Goodwin, who's on the roster for a quick minute with the Toronto Raptors last season during the health and safety protocol era. But I get that it's close. I get that there's an unpredictability with the Atlanta Hawks, given the fact they made the Eastern Conference Finals a couple seasons ago. They have a star player in Trae Young for sure. DeJounte Murray, who had a great season for the struggling San Antonio Spurs last year, almost averaged a triple-double, but I don't like them being that close. And I know the Raptors also have a bunch of, what would you call them, right? They're questionable players. You don't know how much potential they're going to fulfill immediately right into next season, right? All of us Raptors fans have bought into the growth everyone's been talking about, with Nick Nurse saying Precious has taken a step forward, Scottie's taken a step, Gary Trent Jr., OG Anunoby are young guys, and Siakam and Fred coming back healthy, all that huge stuff. But, I want us substantially higher than the Hawks. Regardless of how they did 2 seasons ago, regardless of what they did this offseason, I think there's a clear separation between the top 5 seeds there. But I don't know, maybe call me crazy on that. Maybe the Hawks could be in a decent spot there. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of those rankings from ESPN. The next thing we're diving into is a minor Kevin Durant update. Now, this is people are sick of the KD news. I get it. I completely get it. I'm throwing it at the end of this video, but there is still a chance we could potentially acquire him. So we need to dive into all this sort of stuff. And KD is continuing the drama, continuing the stuff. But basically, this is the newest reports, the newest updates. And Kevin Durant's boundless love for basketball is not a reason to believe he'll show up for training camp if the Nets don't acknowledge his trade request. So that's a recent tweet that came out on the KD situation, because I've seen a lot of people say in regards to Joe Tsai's tweet about how we're doing what's best for the Brooklyn Nets. We're going to go in that direction, right? And they essentially said that, okay, sure, that could be interpreted, Ben, in terms of, okay, we're just cutting loose with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. Sure, that's one way to interpret it. That's how I interpret it on the most recent video. But they're also saying maybe what's best for the Brooklyn Nets, what Joe Tsai, what the owner said, could be keeping Kevin Durant on the roster and seeing what happens, and then calling his bluff, seeing if he'll pull a Ben Simmons, pull a young socialite, and say, I'm not showing up to training camp. I'm not playing for you guys ever again, right? Seeing if he's bluffing on that front. And this report's essentially saying there's zero bluffs coming from KD, and he's likely going to get moved. And that's how I interpreted the Joe Tsai tweet. I don't think they're going to try to... If KD's out here making ultimatums to a billionaire, they're not just putting up with that. There's egos involved with this. I said this from the jump. Joe Tsai is sick of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving and wants to make a move happen. Now, if that feeds into the Raptors' quest for Kevin Durant, if that feeds into us potentially acquiring him via trade, who really knows? But, I don't think he's going back to the Brooklyn Nets. Whether to be to another team, to the Raptors, who really knows? And we got a bunch of reports now that KD drama's picked back up involving other teams. Now, Kevin Durant sees apparently the Celtics as a desired landing spot, and it also came out that Durant would like to play with Marcus Smart if he's traded to the Boston Celtics. Now, what were the reports that were rumored a couple weeks ago now at this point, that the Celtics offered to the Nets? It was Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart. So Smart's going to be a core piece, a core second player going back to the Nets if any deals sort of getting offered. Just like the Raptors, it's going to be OG Anunoby and Gary Trent Jr. With the Suns, it's going to be at this point Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson. The Heat, Tyler Hero, and Duncan Robinson's not really a valuable second option, but you get the point. You're going to need to send at least two solid starting caliber players to the Nets for KD along with draft capital. And the Celtics, right? If KD wants to go to the Celtics and have Marcus Smart on there, obviously the Stars, they have an impact on how these trades get worked out, but the Nets apparently weren't having any of this nonsense. They weren't having any of this cheese, and they said, okay, if you want Marcus Smart, apparently the first request that the Brooklyn Nets made to the Boston Celtics were, give us Jaylen Brown as well as Jason Tatum too. We want both of those guys if we're going to be trading you Kevin Durant. So, the Nets are still playing a hard bargain. Apparently KD also addressed that the Philadelphia 76ers were one of his desired destinations, listed the Celtics and the Sixers. So the Raptors are not one of the spots that KD wants to land to. Another reason why I could see a lot of Raptors fans just being cool with not actually acquiring the guy. Apparently the Pelicans also have renewed interest in trading for KD at this point now too. It's going to be an interesting situation. So that's all the latest on all the KD drama. Right, maybe KD should become the young socialite with everything he's getting going on. But the final thing we're discussing is Juancho Henrnangomez, Bo Cruz, Raptors' newest signing, faced off against Giannis Antetokounmpo in some friendly international action, and he didn't really match up to Mr. Giannis Antetokounmpo. Definitely didn't have a best game. Probably I didn't give out a golden kazoo earlier in this video. I'm gonna give out no G's. Throw out no G's at this point in the game. No golden kazoos. This is offseason action. You might not be in a friendly game. You might not be that ready to go and all that sort of stuff. But our guy Juancho did not have the greatest performance. He had 4 points, 4 rebounds, and 1 assist in 24 minutes of action. Went 0 for 5 from the 3-point line. Went 2 of 10 from the entire field. Right, shot 20% from the field and had 5 turnovers. Now, I know he's going up against one of the best players of all time in Giannis Antetokounmpo, right? Multi-time MVP in the prime of his career, yada yada yada. But Juan, you gotta be stepping that up. You can't be putting up stat lines, shooting 20% in international action, not making a single three whatsoever. Especially as we've been gassing you up. I'm working on animations for you, right? So I don't know. Definitely not the greatest of performances from one of our newly signed Toronto Raptors, but as people don't want to feed into the offseason action, the Pro-Am runs, maybe it's not smart to feed into the international action either, even though that's probably a better indication of a player's skill and all that sort of stuff. But I just wanted to address the single game. I know it's tough going up against Giannis, but definitely an ugly one. I'll throw the stat sheet up on here. His brother Willie Henrnangomez had a better game in 21 minutes of action at 15 points, 5 rebounds, and former Toronto Raptor Lorenzo Brown in 17 minutes, representing Spain at 7 points and a couple of assists. So, shout out Lorenzo Brown. Former NBA player Rudy Fernandez also had 3 points in that game. So, Spain out here repping. They're a fun international team to watch. It's going to be international action. Should get a little bit more spicy too for the Raptors, or for Canadian fans, as Team Canada, Nick Nurse wants the commitment for the boys, and they played well earlier in the summer for all the international action we saw from our Canadians. So keep an eye out to those, and Juancho gonna need some improvements coming into this coming season. But you guys are best to make it this far. Check out the Instagram, the TikTok, the Twitter, all that cool stuff. I guess the next goal in the subscriber mark is 26. Hit that Hito Turkaloo number, right? 26K. So definitely hit that sub button if you made it this far in the video, right? Helps us out big time. But enough of me rambling. You guys are the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.